please check us out over on patreon.com. With the Royal Rumble coming up, we've been putting up Royal Rumble watch-alongs. We've been putting up some of our classic interviews on there. I'm going to start with what I just had on TV because it was one of the more... I haven't been watching a lot of WWE, and I've been watching things more lately just that have excited me. I don't know. WWE, I don't know if I want to say they feel stale, but there's nothing exciting right now, and I feel like there's a lot of excitement with TNA Impact. Did you get to watch last night?
I did. And I like to talk a little bit about TNA Impact. I'd also like to talk to you about the whole thing with WWE because I want to comment on that. I think we talked about this a little bit too. And I'd be curious what you think about this. Just a quick sidebar. I've talked to you since WWE has changed up their platforms too, with switching things around, and I got rid of Sling. I know I've talked to other people like this, like with NXT. AJ used to be a big fan of NXT, but when it went to the CW and he no longer had like YouTube TV that carried it, he doesn't watch it as much anymore. And I do think there is something that may be being a little stale right now, but I think there's something to us personal viewing habits for right or wrong, good or bad. We do what we do. And unless because I'm watching WWE again, but I had to actively change my habits. I had to go through Nord, VPN, and I started watching things that way. And I find it.
Yeah, you get Nord on the computer, so you watch it in there. I don't have Nord on the TV. I've got Netflix on the TV, so I'll catch up with Raw when I can. These European times have thrown me off. But SmackDown, I have to have the Fire TV plugged in.
Right.
I have to be watching it then, or else I don't find a replay. It's funny that you mentioned with AJ and NXT because when they moved to CW, I just downloaded the CW app.
Right. See, that works for you. You're a guy who will watch something the next day a lot of times. And
I really don't mind at all.
Right. And so it's interesting. So AJ always tries to watch it the night of. But TNA is what you asked me about. I thought they did bounce back this week. We were a little too kind to them last week. Last week was not a good show. And I don't think we said it was, but I think we tried to be kind. We were optimistic. I can say optimistically last night watching it, not that it was the greatest show ever, but it was definitely a big improvement over the first week. Not perfect, but man, if they could have took that show last week the show they had last night and combined it with just bringing AJ Styles back and, having Mike Santana with the title, and this could have been their first show out of the gate, this would have been a much bigger night for them. I'm just going to go over. I did take a few notes. Cedric Alexander had a great match to kick it off with Moose. He beat Moose. That comes into play at the end. Mike Santana cut a good personal promo. He actually played clips of his dad, who's passed away. You heard his audio over the arena. And his dad talking about, remember, you worked hard. Basically, you earned this and you deserve this and you fought for this and you belong. And stuff like that. It was like, wow, that's powerful, That
was the first time that the Frankie Kazarian shit seemed okay.
Yeah.
But it seemed like it took them 2 weeks to get there.
The other big news, of course, Trey Miguel. Trey Miguel, who got hired as part of the Rascals in AEW, was let go, assuming from some some homophobic stuff he mentioned in 2020 and some tweets that I believe he had apologized for, but came under the radar. I think that's the speculation. And WBD caught wind of this and he got let go. Trey hadn't really talked about it, but Trey said, this we do know for sure, Trey said, I'm taking time away for wrestling. I'm support the Rascals. Well, time away must have only been about 4 or 5 days because this motherfucker showed up last night.
Actually, Dave, we're going to talk more about this on Patreon because a former guest of the show got roped into this controversy. Amid rumors, but we'll talk about that on Patreon. I really enjoyed this because, when I first heard they all went over to AEW, I'm like, all right, that's cool, but that's a loss for TNA. And then you hear about the tweet and how it's keeping him out of there, just like it kept Jay Briscoe out.
Yeah.
And then when I watched him return last night, I'm like, oh, this is where he needs to be. I feel like he could have been lost in the shuffle at AEW, but now he feels like he could be, I'm going to say top of the X division, even though the X division has no limits, but it feels like he's going to be a star here.
It is interesting though. He did get one of the briefcases last night and that Feast or fired. For all we know, he could be fired, and that was off just an angle. I doubt it, but
I saw Matt Hardy say that TNA had the chance to do something hilarious. I was kind of mad when I saw him come back for Feast or Fired because it was a gimmick I talked about last week, not being a fan of. But I thought it was great to see him there. It made the match more interesting.
I hope Eric Young actually is the one who gets fired, and I hope he goes to NXT. And I hope we see something with Sanity again. That's my hope. And that's how you make that work. And then everybody else gets title shots. Finishing up, though, on TNA, the return of Ash by Elegance last night. She jumped the the TNA Knockouts champion. She won it on an NXT event. And, of course, the big angle at the end of the night, the system, JDC, Dango, he retired. Obviously, at Genesis, he came out just to announce a new member, Bear Bronson, almost a guest on the show. We had an interview with him. It's lost in the archives somewhere. But Bear Bronson came out, and then they ended up attacking JDC and attacked Moose. Cedric Alexander comes out like he's making the save. Nope, he joins the attack, and we have 2 new members of the system, and that's how we finish, with a beatdown by the new system. But I like it. I like that we have new members. I'm
glad that you glazed over that Elegance segment because that's exactly what it deserved.
It was the worst part of
the fucking sucked. That felt like week 1.
They were possibly the worst part of the show on week 1 too. Like they were definitely. I don't know. This gimmick's not hitting. I'm happy that there's someone else back. I know Ash had been working hard before this, but the overall gimmick, especially with this Mr. Elegance character, and just whatever reason, the matches too have just not been hitting the last couple of weeks. So we'll see going forward. But
I haven't enjoyed them for a while. They fit like a part of the program, and I guess when you look at wrestling as kind of like
buffet,
a variety show, a buffet, yeah, a little bit of everything. But like they were just booing during that segment, and it was just. It was garbage. It wasn't enjoyable. Please, if you enjoy what you saw, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you know when we go live. Head over to patreon.com. Check out everything we have going over there.